Okay, that's it. Sorry for that. Okay, good afternoon. Boa tarde. So my name is Pascal Loas. I'm working for the Luxembourg Institute of Science and Technology, where I'm acting as a lead partnership officer in automotive, mobility, and smart city sector. So very quickly, who are we? So we are a research center in Luxembourg, a classical research and technology organization, like you can have the TNO, VTT in Finland, Fraunhofer, that you know better than you know us, most probably. And we are in 4 domains, so environment, technology, informatics and digitalization, innovative materials, and space. So I will just focus on one of our projects that we have. This project, we call it a nationwide digital twin. So we spoke these days quite a lot about digital twin. That's still another digital twin. So we have the ambition to have really at the national level, a full digital twin of the city. So of course, nation of Luxembourg is not America. Huh? So we speak about 650,000 people, which more or less compared to Lisbon. In which this 650, we have 100,000 people from Portugal. That's the reason why in Luxembourg, in the construction sector, you never see the Bay of Luxembourg. When there is a construction site, you usually see the Superbook, of course. So the idea is to have a digital copy of the country, and we will do it step by step on different sectors and with different pieces. So there you see also the time frame. So we get a first phase that will last 2-3 years, another one that will 4 more years, and there will be a third one, probably 2 years for really commercialization. So we will speak about a long-term vision, and we will be focusing initially on the energy system and electromobility, and after probably connected vehicle, and second, circular industrial zones and smart and connected urban and rural communities. This gives you a vision of the national investment on this. So it will be also topped with some involvement on European project, of course. You can consider that each year is more or less 1 million to give you the size of the project. So I'll show you a very quick video of showing the idea. So this is the area where we have our premises. You see the LIS flagship above our office. So this is a full 3D model of the area. It's not just only a 3D picture or video, it's really a model. So in this model, a tree is a tree, a stone is a stone, a red light is a red light. And of course, we will add some information layer on top of this, depending on the scenario we want to play. And we do imagine a lot of different scenarios. And it doesn't mean neither that the digital twin has to have 3D visualization. If you want to simulate the grid network of electricity, you may not need a 3D model of it. So it's depending on the usage. So these are different uses we are planning to have. And regarding precision, we spoke yesterday about Google Earth. Precision is 10 times more than what we have in Google Earth. And you saw a scenario about construction. You have to have in mind that 20 years ago, in 2001, Luxembourg was 450,000 inhabitants. So 20 years later, we are 200,000 inhabitants more. So really, urbanization is a real challenge for Luxembourg. And this kind of tool will really help us to make this. Of course, we are not working on this project alone. We are collaborating in Luxembourg with the University of Luxembourg and also a socio-economic research center, because this aspect will be of very high importance. And for us, it's really a 10-year vision. And I have some work till I go in pension, most probably. So this should more or less end it. It's the capture is made by drones, as you saw. Okay, I think I stay in my time. So I welcome your question if you have any, now or later, or in the evening, or another time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now we have João Souza who will do his pitch.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is João Souza. I'm here to show you a little bit of who we are and what we do. In CCG, CCG stands for Center for Computer Graphics. We are an interface center dedicated to the applied research and development in the areas of computer graphics, information, electronics, and communications, and its application at the national and international level. Our mission is to be continuously recognized as an interface entity of excellence at the national and international level. We believe in the added value of knowledge as a way to achieve a better society, so we act autonomously or through partnerships as an interface entity for the sources of knowledge from one side, the University of Minho and its research centers, such as the Algorithmic Research Center, and on the other side, the companies, the industries, the real economy, through strategic partnerships, providing products and services, and transferring technology. We participate in several international networks, also national networks, collabs, and digital innovation hubs, like the Produtech DIH. And we are one of the founding members of the Graphics Vision AI International Network, a network for computer graphics, computer vision, and media. We have a modern infrastructure with edge technologies that assist us in the development of our projects. We have, for example, an autonomous driving simulator, a cave for automatic virtual environment, our data center, and a virtual theater, for example. We have a multidisciplinary team separated in 4 applied research domains that constitute the operational units of CCG. With their own multidisciplinary team, they are specialists in the scientific fields and technologies in which they operate. The computer vision, interaction and graphics research domain dedicates its activities to image processing and analysis, the application of artificial intelligence, such as feature recognition and machine learning, multimedia, and visual interactions like virtual reality and augmented reality, for example. The IT engineering, process data maturity and quality is the research unit dedicated to process maturity and process quality with respect to information system engineering. It creates tools, methods, and frameworks and applications related to software architectures, big data, business analytics, digital business models, data warehousing, among others. The human technology interaction and robotics has a strong and solid knowledge in the field of psychology and dedicates its activity to the application of this knowledge in creating new and improved ways for people to interact with machines, robots, and applications through the creation of human-machine interfaces. The urban and mobile computing research domain is an emerging area that tries to create enhanced experience for users when interacting with urban spaces. They create applications related to mobile computing, indoor, outdoor positioning systems for people and goods, and vehicle communications. And to finalize, we are very interested in the topics of connected and autonomous mobility, extended reality, and robotics. So feel free to to address me if you share a common interest in those topics. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, João. And now we'll have Marinos from UNESCO and EU Heritage on digital cultural heritage. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Marinos Ioannidis. I'm representing here today the UNESCO as well as the European Research Area Chairs on Digital Cultural Heritage, two awards which we received in the year dedicated to cultural heritage in 2018. Thank you very much, first of all, to Uninova for the invitation, all the participants, you here, and of course, congratulations for the summit. I have to say, I learned a lot. Our name, you see it over there below, Mnemosini. It has to do also with the content of this summit. You may know in the ancient Greek mythology, it was a goddess named Mnemosini. She had 9 daughters. The muses, and those 9 ladies were in charge for what? To keep alive the memory, the knowledge of the ancient Greeks. These ladies and the mother had a special place, a special temple where the ancient Greeks went to ask Muses and Mother Mnemosini, please keep alive my memory, my knowledge. And that place, the name of that place is still alive in 99% of all the languages of the world. You know that. It's a museum. And this museum, according to the International Council of Museums, is a place of knowledge. It's a place where we keep alive our memory and our story. And I would like to give you 2 examples from 2 museum objects. You see it here. This is the first one. I'm sure you don't recognize it if you are not a Greek. I don't know, but it may be. This here, you recognize it, huh? Human vision, not computer vision. But it's a big and tricky issue behind so far as the definition of Industry 5.0 session from yesterday and the digital era, and this is what it states here. So this is the photo from the National Archaeological Museum in Athens, where the first object is exhibited. If you pass by, you don't understand anything what it is about. But it is one of the greatest inventions ever in the world, and it is a key object. Let's see, have a little bit insight of that object. Using modern technologies, 100 years ago invented, you know, Marie Curie here. It's a little bit complicated. And if you see it from the perspective of the high tech today, it's even more complicated. Ladies and gentlemen, enjoy this, what it was 2,500 years ago, the first ever analog computer of the world. This is a piece of science made in Europe, in ancient Greece, to calculate what? The position of the planets, the exact position, so that the Greeks knew when they had to stop the war, not like we do it today, in the modern time, so that they will be able to start the Olympic Games. That was one of the first uses of this very complicated object. In this object here, you may remember the astronomer Kepler and his laws. In this instrument here, ladies and gentlemen, is hidden the second Kepler law. Kepler didn't copy anything from that invention. This mechanism was discovered 102 years ago on the ground of the sea outside of the island of Antikythera. And that's the name, mechanism of Antikythera. So, having that in mind, and if this object with the power of this what it states again here was able to talk using modern technologies like artificial intelligence, yeah, and all these key technologies, imagine what this object will have said to the visitor, to the tourist of today. I'm just only moving, and I'm finishing, a half minute. Ancient jewelry, a key manufacturing technology hidden here, ladies and gentlemen, with modern technologies discovered to help and support whom? I will say it at the end. You see here, modern technologies to document what? The inside and the outside of this unique object for authentication reasons, for the police. And what we discovered, unique technology manufacturing made in Europe, but it was lost. Ladies and gentlemen, our monuments and sites are talking, we are not hearing them, but this here, again, can help and support us to understand them. And you know what? In the meantime, we don't have any standards. We don't have anything to do what? To document the past, the knowledge of the past. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the reason why we are here, for the values of the human kind, and for whatever we do. And Evcharisto. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Marinos. Next, we will proceed with our final pitch, which is Tânia Lourenço, from a Escola Superior de Enfermagem de São José Cluny.
Hello, good afternoon. I'm Tânia Lourenço. I'm from the nursing school of São José de Cluny. It's a nursing school based here in Madeira. And I'm from the different field than my colleagues on this pitch. And I will present our nursing school. And the main goal is to present what we do at the moment and what we want to do. And maybe a new partnership can start here in this summit. We are a nursing school with more than 70 years old, and we form many nurses and other health professionals. We have a nursing degree and 5 master degrees, all credited by the Portuguese agency. We have several post-graduation courses and different clinical courses, small courses, and we have about 6 specialties. We have mental health, surgical, the pediatric care, obstetric care, and we are interested in different area, and we have several projects in different area, and we are develop different area in the healthcare, and we have in our teaching and training, we use simulation with the students, and we are research this simulation, and we have almost our department, pedagogical department, we just use digital to submit the essays. All the process are digitalized, so maybe we can share this experience. In the research, we are also involved in different projects. Almost of them we are trying to develop new tools to help people to take care of each other. Yesterday we presented a new project we have for the caregivers to monitorize their own mental health by a application. We are developing this application at this moment. We also have this Erasmus chart for the next 4 years, and maybe we can find new partners to development, maybe training projects or even cooperation agreement. And we are also interested in the sustainability. We are developing different practices in our nursing school about the Green Deal, to work with our students and the staff about this area and how can the health professional, more particularly the nurse, can help in this area, because as you maybe know, in the hospital we have many different kinds of residuals, and what can you do to reduce this kind of devices and different things we can also to develop new practice to try to have more ecological practice in the health area. So we believe that we are a partner. We can share our knowledge in the health education and even in the research and the new projects. Then we can start here with you. So this is my contact, and for our school, we are open to start new collaboration. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have time for one question or two. I don't know if anyone would like to raise any questions. Well, feel free during the dinner this evening, for those of you who are here, to exchange opinions, etc. Okay, thank you very much. Yeah. We will begin the panel discussion now. If all the participants or members of the panel could please come up. Okay. Okay. Okay, our moderator for the session, panel's discussion, is Professor Silvio Fernandes and Professor Elsa Fernandes from the University of Madeira. Thank you.
Good afternoon. The topic: technology at service of people and business. The technological world in which we operate changes every second and influences our lives and the lives of companies. We are in an intensely competitive society in which the transactions of goods, the blockchain and the Internet of Things and values defines from those of 2 or 3 years ago. It is important to think about what role technology should play in our daily lives and how it can be successfully integrated into organizations. Technology must be thought of as a resource that helps us simplify everything and as an artifact for thinking. Technologies have always changed people and institutions. It is a well-known historical process. The novelty of these new technologies is that they change people and the world at a scale and pace we never thought possible. We must learn to deal with these new worlds and beware that this development is exponential and decisive for our future. Thank you.
So good afternoon.
In the sense that on the question actually, how can we drive innovations towards social desirable ends? How can we give direction to research, direction to innovation? And how can we give these new technologies and characteristics which we would like to have them? So in other words, my long-term vision is that citizens, in fact, can become more agents of change rather than just be subjected to change.
So, hello. I've been working as a computer scientist, developer, system engineer for more than 20 years. And of course, I've seen a lot of change over these 2 decades. Not only what I do, but also how and where I do things. I think that the biggest change we saw was with the pandemic, where there was a big change in the mindset of management, allowing us to work wherever it was best for us and whenever it was appropriate. So that's I think that may be the biggest change that we've seen in my company.
Okay. So I developments and in foresight activities also, I would say it has become much faster. So things are changing much faster now. I think everybody is recognizing this. But if you did like road mapping activities before, you had some time like, oh, this is a vision for 2030 or something. And now it's all happening much faster. So this is one thing that I kind of saw in the kind of content of my work. As you mentioned also, it's kind of how we work, like how we work personally. Of course, digitization had a very big impact. So this has changed work and work style a lot. It has been accelerated by the pandemic, but the pandemic also made it more like we needed it more, all that digitization. I think people, work in different styles now. They use other tools, or they can work more mobile from home office or wherever. People have become more flexible. I also see that change in management and business culture in a way.
Okay, hello also from my part. I have studied electrical and computer engineering. So from the start of my career, I was working in the digital sector. In the beginning, in the digital area, I mean, in the beginning in the private sector, and then collaborating with the government in Greece, and then in the European Commission. So during all these years, I have seen changes. I have seen digital technologies being applied in the workforce, and that has been gradual, I would say, until recently. But very recently, and I think that the pandemic has accelerated a lot this change. I think we are really seeing a paradigm shift, because the workplace, it's not the same anymore. We are moving towards a workplace where humans are a bit absent. And this is done in a very fast pace, I think. And this is something that we have been discussing here with a lot of colleagues. For me, this is the first physical event that I attend after the pandemic, and really we attend lots of events. But during 2 years, everything has been online. So in the beginning, it has been a bit of a shock to me to be with in a physical event. So I think this is something we should focus, how the workplace is changing towards a huge change this time.
So my name is Cardinal. I'm an ocean scientist. I'm a physicist by training. And we always recall on technology to collect data in the ocean. That's been since I remember. But more and more we've been able to go deeper and deeper. So we can reach deeper depths in the ocean with this technology. We can measure much finer scales. So we can measure changes that happen very fast in the ocean due to this. Due to the access of technology, and therefore we can understand small-scale processes. But the most exciting aspect of ocean digitalization these days is that scientists or engineers worked with scientists to develop sensors to actually measure the biology. Because up to now, most of the indirect measurements of the ocean were done for the physics and not so much for the biologists. Still needed to go in the water, collect the marine ecosystems, map the biology of the ocean is probably one of the most recent developments I can remember, I can recall. And you are?
Laurent, a little bit late, but...
Yes, sorry. Lost track of time with interesting conversations.
Laurent is a senior foresight and policy expert at European Commission Joint Research Center. We are now discussing the first question, and I ask each one of you to say how has technology impacted, changed your work in the last 5 or 10 years?
Well, that's a big question, and I think nobody can deny that at least digital technologies have revolutionized completely the way we work. And I think that one of the most striking examples was the fast change that happened with the pandemic. You know, we were all familiar with exchanging emails and, you know, having some video conferences every once in a while, but then, you know, all of a sudden from one day to the next, really moving 100% work online was psychologically, I think, a very strong change that allowed us to actually completely change the relationship we had to people. We were just discussing about this. And what I felt was that there was a tremendous pressure because we, in our work, do a lot of participatory exercise. And so we were forced to actually move these physical, very physical participatory exercises completely online. And we had to relearn the whole psychological management of a group of people. When you moderate in a room, it's completely different than when you have to do these kind of things, you know, online when you see people like this, you know, on a screen. So yes, absolutely, very big change.
Okay, thank you. So, Mike, I have one question for you. How has technology reshaped the more modern workplace, and how it will change the culture of business? And what are the challenges and chances over the past years and in futures, which the disruptive times of digital transformation bring?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so the first one is very related to the other question. I think, well, modern workplace depends on where you work, of course. If you're at the office all day, it will be equipped with a lot of digital technology to enable you to communicate in these times, which is needed. Nevertheless, I'd say employers should also take care to have a good balance, like to not overwhelm people maybe with a lot of those tools and give them a new tool every day, but really keep it to something that is very pragmatic and not forget to also kind of have people still interact. I think a modern workplace is still about to find this right balance, because now we're all a bit overwhelmed with what the pandemic brought and this total online thing, and we have to go a bit back to that, to a balance which is maybe more healthy for everybody. So this is maybe the modern workplace for somebody in the office, but of course there's other workplaces. Like in production, a modern workplace could soon have something like human-robot collaboration with collaborative intelligence, or many of the things. So technology will really bring much to many different workplaces. So it really depends where you're working. I assume also in a lab. This further that digitization changed the mindset of people that you really needed. For those who might not have wanted it, digital divide. Even if you look at smaller companies, the one that could go with it much faster, or were maybe already digitized before, and compared to those who were very maybe resistant even, so it was a big challenge, I think, but it also of course provides a lot of chances. So yeah, thank
you. Henry, can you
Yes, thank you. You know, on the occasion that you phrased the question rather general, I would like to give also a very general vision on how it could be. Let me just first give the example of the event of the internet as a form of innovation which has changed the life of governments, citizens, and businesses alike. To become now, exactly the same could happen in some other domains. For example, in the energy sector, we can imagine a world in which citizens will become independent from energy suppliers because our houses can be built in a way that they produce more energy than they consume. So we become actually not only consumers of energy, but also producers of energy. And equally, perhaps in a third way, in a combination of digitalization and 3D printing, citizens can not just become consumers of products, but also producers of products and sell them worldwide. So you have a sort of potential, if this decentralization would emerge further, and when the existing power relations would break down, and to enable this process. It can also go in another direction. And this is, I would say, the more negative direction from which I now want to give a concrete example. And this is in the area of research publishing, which I'm of course acquainted with as a researcher. And what happens there in this form of digitalization of what you can call platformization of the economy, you get a particular tendency to again to centralize things, but also of a very peculiar nature. I have to explain this a little bit. If we look to publishers as Elsevier, for example, they have 60% of the science and technology medicine market in terms of publications. And if you are a researcher and you do research and you make use of the services of Elsevier, which is a company which in itself has transformed to a digital company, much more where publishing is actually a side fact, then if you use their tools, then you get first a fantastic experience, because if you look for literature, they will give you all kinds of suggestions. Or if you have written something, they will hand you and say, well, why you not look at this one? And of course, they will direct you to journals of Elsevier itself. But what is more, they profile you, and they have a profile of every researcher. They know in which are the interest in, and they follow research behavior. And here the tricky thing is coming in, because if there are only a few publishers in the world, then which know about the interests of the researchers, they can see which topics are emerging, which are interesting, but they can also direct those. So in other words, our classical idea of freedom of research is at stake. Notably, of course, if there are only a few very big publishers. And you see now already in what I call fake open access publishing, is that we pay ourselves for our publications, but universities make alliances with particular publishers because otherwise it is costly. And researchers look for a university which can support their publication. So you get a very strange competition among researchers. I don't think this is a good development, apart from the fact that what is actually happening is actually jeopardizing, in my view, and my understanding of European privacy regulation, for example, simply against the law. But even what the Portuguese member of European Parliament was referring to, the Digital Service Act, doesn't seem to capture this problem. So these publishers can get away with this. So I think this is a problem, but it is maybe also a more general problem, because if we think of science as a common good, we normally think of science as a common good, then this is exactly at stake, because you see a further commodification of knowledge and privatization of access to knowledge. In other words, the whole idea of what is essential for the progress of science, collaboration, as we have seen with COVID, and also data sharing, is actually in stake if we go into that direction. So you can have two opposite directions, one in which citizens and also then researchers will become more autonomous and have more capabilities to do something than they otherwise could not have dreamed of. But we could also become, through an enormous new form of platformization, which is centralized by a few companies and can direct your behavior rather than that you have capacities to evade them. Similar as we have now already in the pharmaceutical industry, pharmaceutical companies. I mean, there are only a few in the world. And so this platformization is in this form, and this form of digitalization, I think, is a social challenge in itself. Sorry for the long answer, but I will not then respond to the other questions, because then I annoy you with other visions which don't make you sleep tonight. So
very interesting, but I'm worried because we are a small university. This question you bring will also put a balance between the north rich and the south poor, and it's a problem that we have to deal, and it's not fair. Yes, it isn't, but it's beautiful. Anita, I want you to talk about how has technology changed workplace communication.
Well, this is a bit part of the previous question and answer, because communications have changed dramatically, and this led to the, let's say, dematerialization of the workplace. Let's say that communication, then I see that telecommunications have developed so much. We have high-speed. 5 years ago, video conferencing was something you could do in the commission by going to specific rooms and setting up before. So all these means, also cloud computing as well, have changed a lot communication, because now we can work in the same files, in the same documents, respectively of where we are placed. But I think the most important tool was video conferencing that brought people together. I remember that we were saying, yes, okay, communication between live communication cannot be skipped because we need this face-to-face approach. But suddenly video conferencing has become mainstream, so we think we have this face-to-face communication. So I think these are some of the ways that communication has not only changed but accelerated a lot, and tries to simulate the real life. Electronic tools nowadays, digitalization is trying to simulate the physical world, and we think we have everything in place, which of course is not the case. I think there are things missing. So yeah, this is it, I think.
Now I would like to listen you about the same question.
Yeah, so coming from the software industry, of course, 95% of every software developer is an introvert. So we like to stay in our offices, and with especially with as you mentioned, the video conferencing, we see that that has become very practical and very much applied. Even for one-on-ones, we see that in some companies, if you need to speak to a colleague for some on a difficult topic, then you do a video conference even if he's sitting in the next room, so that you can share the screen and discuss. So it's become very usual. Yes, I think. So it might be an advantage, but I think also there is a disadvantage, and I also think that the technology that we are using today also have some challenges when it comes to the interrupts. When you're working with, and also that is true for research, of course, when you are working to solve difficult questions, challenges, then you need to focus and concentrate. And for every time your email blings or your phone makes a buzz, then you are out of the flow. And research shows that it takes at least 24 minutes to get back into that flow. So for every time your phone beeps during a day, you lose half an hour basically. But I think that's one of the things that we need to be aware of, and it takes a lot of personal control to be able to keep focus in a world of many interruptions.
Because we don't know now to be offline.
No.
We are always on.
We are always on, yes.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Laurent, the floor is yours. How do we future-proof our life and careers and support the innovation of business processes?
Wow, that's a lot at once. I think I'm going to go back to a few things I was saying this morning. In order to future-proof something, so whether it's your life, whether it's your career, or as we do in the Commission, trying to future-proof policies, I think the first thing you have to do is to create images of the future, because you have to, future-proof against what? So you have to have an image of, what future you want to consider. Then you have got two possible approaches. So either you've got a clear idea of what your future you want to be. Lots of people have that actually. You tend to extrapolate what you know from today. You go on the trends, and you imagine that future is the one thing, and then you try to then act accordingly. So that's one way to future-proof. But when you do this, the problem we have is that life is full of surprises. The future is not really predictable, so you're not very resilient. So then the other way is to apply some of the techniques I was talking about this morning, and to start to work in scenarios, what futures could be possible. And then you start to see and assess what are the pros and cons of different sets of circumstances. And then you can see, okay, so if it goes this way, then this could happen, I could do this, I could do that. And if you compare what could happen in different ways forward, you can start to identify some things that you could do that would be beneficial in all cases. And then you say, okay, that's an easy thing, I should do that. And then other things, would be useful to do in some cases, but not in others. And then what's important here is that then you can flag some indicators moving towards the future that could indicate to you whether you're in this case or that case, and that can inform your decision making. So that's another way to future-proof, things. And so that can be a trigger for innovation, so for changing. And I think that when people talk about innovation, I think that the capacity of people to invent new things, is limitless. Everybody can do that. That's not an issue. But very often what people don't talk about is innovate for what? Is to give a sense of direction to the innovation. And I think that here what's important is the human-centric vision in a digital society. The motto of this conference is really important, because if we want to put people, humans, at the heart of things, that will actually shape the type of innovation that you want to have and you should pursue. That's what One was talking about this morning. Responsible research, innovation. What is responsible? So on the one hand, you can say, well, that's a no-brainer. Everybody will want to say that what they do is responsible. But then we heard examples of some things that sometimes are not completely responsible. So there, I think that that's where you need to bring ethics into your visions of the future, in order to make sure that we evolve towards a human-centric digital society.
Thank you. Anita, can you tell us your vision about the same question, please?
Yes, I would say that I'm completely online with Laurent in what he said. Human-centric is key. And, sometimes people like us, we are a bit, in the part of the science, of the technology, we tend to focus on the advantages of digitalization, digital transformation, and all these buzzwords we keep. But I think it's important to step back a little bit and be a bit skeptical on the long-term repercussions of the digital technology, of the digitalization, because we see that we are moving towards a world where there is a bit of dehumanization. We become kind of avatars in some sense. I remember the workplace was once a place where friendships have been grown, and relationships and families were getting together and everything. And this, from one day to the other, is disappearing. And employees suddenly were very, very happy to telework and to stay home. But after a while, people realized that it's not so cool, finally, to spend all the time at home and to mix in such a permanent way private and professional life. We don't go out for shopping anymore. We can do everything in digital marketplaces. Our friends are in Facebook and Instagram, and we admire their photos and whatever they are doing in the virtual world. So all these, I think, are things that we should consider. More research is needed on the social repercussions, and also in the mental health repercussions of people who change their lives so dramatically. And I think that these are things that we should consider very much in the future.
Okay, thank you. I will take a short phrase that you said. People on the heart of the things. I will ask Mike, if is there space for to be human in this digital world? Taking a little bit of what
I totally agree what you said there, and I think this was also what I wanted to say when I said you should now find the balance, because I see it also like in automation and digitization and making things more and more effective always. like this is maybe losing a bit not only the fun, but like being human as such. And now we're kind of getting part of a bigger machine, and we even do it like getting lazy, saying, okay, my daughter even says, university was like for all of us maybe the best time of our life, but now the students even say, oh, it's so convenient to stay home and do it online. And I'm going like, okay, this can't happen. Like this is really something that we have to pull them back into the universities, even if it's more trouble getting there and everything. So I personally do think it's a risk to have all that digitization. And I don't know if it's per how you can avoid it, but on the other hand, I also see that people from their hearts want interaction. So I think they will get bored, or it's always better to interact with people face to face than via digital tools. So I really hope there is that space for that. And then on the other hand, I also think putting humans in the center, yes, I think this is topic of this theme, and it's also a big topic of the workplace of the future, I think, because we might run into times that it's not that easy to get the workforce, and you have to provide them with things that they feel well at their workspace. And this goes even beyond just providing them maybe with interaction, which I think they will like with meeting people, but this might even go beyond, like they might want to see their values in their companies, for example. They might want to see the green and sustainable company they're working in, or they want to see a fair trade company or whatever. So I think it's even going beyond what the work space in future could provide. But one central theme for me would definitely be that people find the space again to be together. So that would be very important for me.
Thank you. Now, Rui, I would like to listen you about what kind of skills and competences must people have to succeed in the current and future world.
That's a hard one. Willingness to work to start with, but yeah, I think the three most pertinent ones that come to mind could be perhaps digital literacy. People must know what to. Of course, a newcomer must know how to deal with the computers, with the digital world. He must know how to operate it, but he must know the risks associated with it too. So he must know that he can't spend so much time in Facebook, and he cannot answer the phone all the time, and emails perhaps is supposed to be seen twice a day, not every minute. So this culture, this new culture of this new literacy of how to deal with this inflow of information and access of the new digital is important. So I think this is part of the digital literacy that is not often accounted for. It's not just digital literacy in the terms of they know how to operate a computer, they know how to move and produce digital information. They have to know the actual risks associated with going to digital, I think. So digital literacy is one. Critical thinking. I mean, I just absolutely, there is no space for employees or future employees that don't think for themselves and don't try to create, don't comment, don't try to innovate, I mean, people that don't challenge our ideas, or my ideas all the time, I think they're not prepared to be in case of the group I work with, the small group I work with. And I think the future is going to demand more critical thinking. So I think employers will value critical thinking a lot more. And the other one is which is, I think, associated with what was being said here is emotional intelligence. I think people need to relearn how to deal with other people. You know, it's somewhat amazing that we all now go home and talk to people through screens and microphones, but we don't know how to read emotions, you know, and we start, I mean, I think this war and the times we live in has a lot to do with this tool of a digital world that kept people far apart and took out the emotions out of the process. And if you want to be human-centered, you cannot take what humans have that machines don't have: emotions. So you need to have this emotional intelligence if you want to work with others, and collaboration is absolutely fundamental for innovation and for the future. So in a nutshell, I think digital literacy, critical thinking, and emotional intelligence are the three most important ones that I can think of.
Laurent, do you want to add something?
Yes, I agree completely with what you were saying. So of course we will need, you know, the STEM topics, you know, science, technology, engineering, math. You know, we are in a hyper technological society. There's no way we can escape that. But then I agree completely with what Micah was saying also earlier. You know, if young people want to choose, you know, companies according to their values and stuff like that, you also need to give a formation of the young people in ethics, humanities, you know, history, you know, these kind of things. I think that's going to be very important. But beyond this, I think that we're living in a world which has to become sustainable and which is changing very fast. Okay? And I think that because of this, I will go back to what I was saying earlier this morning. We also need to give to these people, on top of the digital literacy, a sort of foresight literacy. So first is what you were saying, critical thinking. So being able to think long term and being able to compare and contrast, you know, possible ways forward requires critical thinking. That's point one. Point two, systemic thinking. Because, you know, the good old easy solutions from the past, you know, one cause, one effect, that was in the past. Now, you know, we're dealing with systems all the time. You know, you press here and then things happen there, you know, all over. You need to be able to understand, you know, systems. I think also curiosity is going to be very important. In foresight, we call that horizon scanning, watching what's going on around you and making sense of it. Very important, because people tend to zero in, you know, on, you know, I'm an expert in this particular thing, I want to fix that particular thing, you know, and you can go down your rabbit hole, you know, introverts, you know, it's like, I'm also like that, you know, it's comfortable to be in your office behind the screen, sorry. But I think that you have to be able to bring the nose up and look across the horizon. And I think the last thing we need to compensate a bit some of the problems we were mentioning is the capacity to create collective intelligence, to work together, you know, bring minds together to reflect together about solving problems of sustainability, whatever, for the future. And so I think in spite of the fact that we cannot predict how many jobs will be in each sector, you know, in the next 10 years, I think that these are skills that we will very much need going forward.
René, you want to say?
Yes, thank you. Well, in fact, probably everybody here in the conference agrees on this human-centric approach. I do as well. But again, I want to highlight something which came into my mind just during the coffee break, that if we continue in particular areas, like the example I just gave in publishing of a privatization initiative, you know, a privatization or a commodification of knowledge which we normally see as a common good, you have this also in other areas. So in other words, it comes on balancing this human-centric approach with what we see as a common good. So one other example is in mobility. I mean, a lot of car companies are working on making our cars autonomous. Now, this is probably an example which you all are familiar with. The question is what type of rules this autonomous car should follow. And if you analyze this, then you get this classical ethical trilemmas or dilemmas. So you if you get a situation in which a car heads into, is threatening to head into a group of pedestrians, then you can have the option of either the person drives into this group of pedestrians or evades this group but then kills one on the side, only one, or takes the alternative, goes to the left but runs into a block and kills himself or herself. So which option to choose? Now, if you analyze this, then it seems, and this was done by an extensive research in a Science article 5 years ago, that people seem to agree we want to have a collective system of security, of mobility, in which we minimize the risk for everybody. Now, you won't get there to this vision if you would let it go like it now is going, that companies will offer systems of autonomous car driving, in which, of course, now the question comes, we all collectively would agree on minimizing risk for all, but if you ask the question to yourself, do you want to sacrifice yourself in those situations, then you would not agree. You will go for the option to save yourself. So everybody in a privatized situation, we're losing track of this collective good. And this is where now the car companies, Tesla, Mercedes, BMW, they all seize on this and try to sell you a car which is safe for you. So it's actually interesting to think about a precursor of this whole thing, that of course AI is not there to make car driving in itself more safe. You know, in the US, for example, there are pro-inhabitant much more car accidents than in Europe. And the reason for that is not an absence of autonomous car drivers. So of course you have to have the social challenge as well. What do you understand under safety? What it means? You can also make your road safe. This was actually thought before. And so in the design of your system again goes a lot of values, and we are currently not contemplating how to implement these values to serve both the human-centric way, but balance them with what we normally still, at this point of time, consider as a common good. Yes, he has a solution.
I have a question for you. If you, yeah, Rui was telling that us with the computer mediating our communication and relations, we cannot read emotions. I read somewhere that robots are being created that can read emotions. Do you think that the robots will replace humans?
That's a very broad question, I think. Will robots replace humans? I think they have done so for a long time in certain areas and in certain niches. I do not no longer cut my own yawn. I have a robot for that. And also a robot vacuumer. But as replacing humans, no, I don't think so. Sorry. I think for companies to survive, they do need a workforce of people who believe in their values and also are feel connected to their colleagues. And I think that's why we see now that more and more people are returning to office to sort of to interact personally in 3D or real life with each other. And I think that's very important for people to feel partnership with their colleagues and feel to be a part of something bigger. The alternative is that everyone becomes a consultant and can work for anyone who pays more money, and I don't think that's sustainable for companies in the long run. And I think that if you introduce a lot of computers with fake emotions and ability to read emotions, it will not be as full replacement of a human interaction. I don't think that in many years to come.
With your answer. Now I would like to ask if you have some question for our panelists.
I have actually two questions or clarification about robots. Robots is not a new phenomenon. It's with us for some years now. And as we know, it's cultural differences in about how we or who implemented and how they were implemented. So what do you think about robots? You say that completely robots will not replace humanity. I would say how we humanize. But let's see what's going in Japan, for example, using robots everywhere as a companies, as a partners, as people to react to. And on the contrary, we could see other countries. So do you see that these differences, so this is one question about robotics, and I'm not saying about robotics in the other parts that probably replaced things. The other question is about skills. We talked a lot about skills and what will be future of skills in terms of what we need to new generations. What about the soft skills that we are talking, the personal one? How to communicate? You talked about this things that our new generation, they would like to stay at home. They don't want to come to university, for example. They prefer the flexibility to learn in their own time, communicate in a different place. So how we can tackle this issue? Or do we need to tackle this issue? Are we actually looking at this generation from our glasses? Do we need to change the glasses as to maybe looking at different ones? So these are three different.
Oh, thank you. No, for the skills, I mean, you mentioned already the emotional intelligence. I think that, that's, the soft skills, I mean, they are at the core of humanity. So I see this as something which is current and which will remain absolutely current, forever, as long as human beings live on this planet. I think that's really, I don't think there's much debate there. I mean, so here, etiquette and a video conferencing etiquette, which is emerging instead. So it's another kind of soft skills. But I think that this is going to be remaining, fundamental to our interaction with our fellow human beings forever after, as long as human beings exist. Sorry.
So just perhaps add some more confusion to the discussion, but I view that I see that humans are becoming digitized in some. You see, you can look at it from our perspective. So you want to say something. You don't confront, and you're losing your conversation skills. You're losing your human skills in a way. You have the refugee of the email. You have the refugee of the. So you do a lot of things digital, even in terms of human to human interactions. You no longer require the human presence to interact, and this somehow is some sort of digitization of this human relationship. So I think we have to work a little bit on that. So, and you wanted to talk about robots?
want to talk about robots, I can talk about robots. So I think, yes, I think there is there might be a cultural thing, as you mentioned. We could sort of think that if we're able to create a very, very smart and sophisticated robot that was able to create even smarter and more sophisticated robots, then the new generation would discover that well, we don't need the old one anymore, and after a few generations, then a robot is even smarter than us, and they figure out that they don't need us anymore. That's of course a possible scenario. But then, of course, one generation will discover that, well, if I create even more smarter robot than myself, then I will won't be needed. So maybe we are the generation that will stop creating the smartest robot, and so that we don't get replaced.
So maybe just all answering your question, but so for both questions, I would say we will still remain human. So I'm quite sure the emotional skills and also we will not fall in love with a robot. I'm quite sure about that. Although it is spooky, but soon they might have the nicest smiles and even the voice of your beloved. I mean, this is possible. But still, I think a cat will still do better than a real cat will still do better than a humanized robot, for example. So I'm maybe too positive about that. But I think, yes, the human is still the one most close, attractive, and whatever to us that still, I think there will be more robots. So I'm quite sure there will be more of them. And yeah, some countries have gone much further than we are right now. But I'm quite sure they will be more. They will be more humanized. Some elderly people might even find it nice also to have more talkative robots, but only if there's not a human around, which could be the real thing for them. Okay, not sure.
I don't know if there is any question. No? So I want to thank you very much and to say that it was a pleasure to be here in the same room than you, not with a computer mediating our communication. Thank you very much. Thank you.